Today, greenhouse gases are the most commonly discussed environmental problem. Greenhouse gases stay in the Earth's atmosphere and trap the UV radiation from the sun. Increasing human population and activities since the Industrial Revolution have greatly increased the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. As more greenhouse gases are emitted, more heat is trapped, which leads to global warming. This results in rising sea level, spreading of disease, intensified natural disasters, extreme weather, and decreased human welfare. So what have you been taught is the most harmful greenhouse gas? Probably carbon dioxide. It's true that CO2 is important to global warming, as it represents 80% of total greenhouse gas emissions. But there's another critical yet underrepresented greenhouse gas, methane. When we look at Google search results, a search for methane produces about 500,000 results, while CO2 has almost 3 times as many with 1.4 million results. Why is that? Maybe because methane is less abundant in the atmosphere. Or maybe because methane's lifespan in the atmosphere is only 12 years, while CO2 may remain for centuries, so methane does not appear to be a long-term problem. However, these statistics do not mean that methane is less of a problem than CO2. Compared to CO2, methane is 84 times more potent, meaning its global warming effect is much stronger. And while methane makes up only 10% of greenhouse gas emissions, it's responsible for 33% of the temperature increase due to human activities. What's more, methane's short lifespan means that a reduction in methane emissions would yield to a more immediate reduction of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere compared to CO2. This means that methane is in fact a problem that deserves more attention. Not surprisingly, the US is responsible for up to 60% of global methane emissions. Agriculture, especially livestock, and the oil and gas industry are the 2 biggest sources of methane emissions. In animal agriculture, cows produce an abundance of methane during their digestive processes. And although the transportation sector creates 13% of worldwide greenhouse gas emissions, animal agriculture is responsible for a whopping 51% of overall emissions. Oil and gas are the other largest contributors to methane emissions. As a primary component of natural gas, methane is emitted during its extraction, storage, and distribution. Older cities like Boston have a big gas leakage problem due to the fact that more than half of the gas pipelines are over 50 years old, and 45% of the pipelines are made from corrosion and leak-prone materials. So how can we mitigate methane emissions? First, the government could create regulations to restrict the amount of methane emitted. In the oil and gas industry, regulations like the source determination rule can force energy companies to detect and reduce the leakage of methane. In the agriculture industry, the government could eliminate subsidies for factory farms that help to further industrialize agricultural practices, thus making their products the cheapest on the market. However, policies and regulations can sometimes take decades to pass, and the current administration is shifting